Hey, it's Mark Hicks, formerly known as Jack Hicks. I never picked out the name Jack Hicks. They gave it to me. I worked at a radio station as a disc jockey, KQRS in Minneapolis. Actually, it was KDWB where I got the name, and then it stuck. We were only going by, we were such a hip radio station. We were only using first names at the time, Hey, this is Mark on Stereo 101, KDWB FM, Richfield, Minneapolis, St. Paul. The Twin Cities rockin' best. So we weren't allowed to use last names. I think we eventually did go back to using them, but it was first names only. And my real name was Mark. There was already a Mark working there. Mark Seeger was his name. And so Mark is gone. And then they go, you can choose your name, any name you want, as long as it's either Jack or Frank. And I went with Jack. Frank's kind of cool, though, now when I think back on it. But I think I'm more of a Jack than a Frank. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to spend a little time to help people out today with the voiceover business, anyway, I worked in radio for years and years and years and had a great career and fun and loved it. Loved every minute of it, actually. I loved going to Brown Institute, the broadcasting school. I loved it every day. I just really enjoyed it a lot. And then when I got a job, it was weird. There were some weird things when I moved down to Spearman, Texas, and went into a completely different culture. I was a Yankee, which I didn't even know was a thing until I got down there. And then I was edumacated. So I enjoyed radio and worked in it a long time. And as I was when I was working at KDWB in Minneapolis, I met a guy by the name of Tom Bernard, which a lot of people have heard of. Tom became a very famous radio announcer at KQRS in Minneapolis, where I worked also. And so I became friends with Tom, and Tom was a voice actor, and he was very successful at it. He was doing, tons of national movie trailers. He was doing things like Nike, Gatorade, Budweiser beer. He was doing Gillette Macho. He had this perfect voice for, Gillette Macho Shave, and he doing a razor commercial. He wasn't on camera. He was voice only, but he was big time. He used to fly out to New York. He rented an apartment in New York City. He'd fly out on Thursday and work Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And he told me that on Fridays, a lot of the big voice actors in New York City left town, went back to Connecticut or wherever their mansion was that they lived in. But Tom would hang around there in his apartment, and he was available for work. And he goes, I picked up so much work because there's nobody available at the time, and it's like pretty intelligent there. No doubt about it. But anyway, the thing about Tom that was so great for me, and I was always fascinated by the voiceover business because it was cool to be a radio announcer in Minneapolis, don't get me wrong, but these guys there's just something about them, they just had a different way about them. They made a lot more money than we did, and we were doing pretty good back then. Back in the mid-'80s, I would say most of us at KQ were making $60,000 a year. I don't know what that translates to nowadays, 150 maybe or something. It was pretty good money, really. I mean, it was better money than I ever made at anything. I mean, usually people always equate radio announcers with low pay, and that's partially true. Let me give you my theory on that and what I think about that before I go on with this advice to help radio announcers that want to get into the voiceover business. That's what this whole thing is all about. But my theory on people that make jokes, that are in radio, that make jokes about how low the pay is and stuff, I'll say this. The reason the pay is low is because you're not very good. If you asked, let's just start pulling out, Ryan Seacrest, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Howard Stern. If you asked any of those guys, do you think there's any money in radio? You think they're going to go, no, you can't make a dime in this business. Those guys are getting paid millions. Why are they getting paid millions and you're not? Is it because there's no money in radio? Or are they just so good at what they do that they're getting paid what they're worth? You're getting paid what you're worth, really when it comes down to. Sometimes maybe less than you're worth and you don't see your worth, or maybe more than you're worth and valued higher than you really should be. I don't know. But generally speaking, you kind of settle in, to what you're worth in reality. And if you're not making, of course, nowadays it's too late. Radio's done as far as I'm concerned. Don't get into radio. VoiceOver, if you want to get into that, I mean, here's a stat about voiceover work that I just saw as well. This is interesting. 90% of voice actors in the country, people that, when you ask them what they do, they say, I'm a voice actor, make less than $10,000 a year. So there's a lot of people out there starving. Well, I don't know if they're starving, but they're just not, 10 grand a year. I mean, you can make more at Walmart being a greeter than you can make as a voice artist with that kind of money. Somehow for me, I just think it's luck, I guess. Even stumbling into radio and getting, fairly good at it and successful at it, it's all luck, really. I think. I mean, I just fell into the business. When I was graduating from high school, I was barely graduating, and I used to hang around a radio station. I lived in New Brighton, Minnesota, and there was a Minneapolis radio station that was based in New Brighton, WAYL, FM stereo, Minneapolis, the home of beautiful music. And that's all the announcers ever did. They just read like liner cards, and they'd say like, you're listening to the beautiful whale, WAYL, FM stereo, Minneapolis. And then back into a Manavani record. And, and that's all the guy really did. And he'd let me hang around and watch him, and I could ask him questions and stuff. And I was fascinated by the business. So when I barely graduated from high school and had no clue what I was going to do, I thought maybe I should get into radio. I had to come up with something. And, maybe I'll give it a try. So I took a city bus down to Brown Institute in Minneapolis, and the guy gave me the tour. And he goes, well, what I'd like for you to do now is read for me. Hands me a script. And, every time, each day our planet awakens with signs of opportunity. But with opportunity comes risk. And to manage that risk, the world turns to CME Group. That is fantastic. My God, are you good? Where do I sign up? So away I went. What's funny about that, too, is they tell that to everybody. When you're 18, you don't know stuff like that. So anyway, away I went, and I loved it. I just loved it. Loved every minute of going to school there. Loved the people I was hanging around with. Loved the area. I loved the vibe, the coolness. I couldn't get enough of it. It was just awesome. And so I lucked out and loved it. And then when I got into my first job in radio, I took the first job I could possibly get. Spearman, Texas. Nobody wanted to go to Spearman. Everybody wanted to stay close to the Twin Cities because a lot of people were from Minneapolis. There were a lot of people that went to school there who were from Nebraska and South Dakota and Iowa and, and places like that. But I'd say the majority of the students, 70%, were probably from Minneapolis, and I was one of them from New Brighton. And, I would have loved to have stayed in Minnesota, but I didn't care. I just wanted to get to work, get started, and make things happen. And that's what I did. And I went to Spearman and loved it down there. I mean, I was lonely because they didn't like me being a Yankee and all that sort of stuff. But I loved the work. I loved being a radio announcer, and it was fun. And so I got lucky, and I did that. And I never once considered getting out of the business. I just kept doing it my whole life. Just loved it. Luck. How can you get that lucky? How can you make a decision at 18 years old, a life decision that's going to impact you for the rest of your life, and have it be the correct decision for you? And when I was about 50 years old, I looked, I think I took a bunch of personality tests. Am I doing what I should really be doing? Is this the right thing for me? I'm now asking at the age of 50. And the answer came back, yeah, this is it. And when I came up here to Bemidji, and all those years in Minneapolis were a blast. And when I came up to Bemidji and worked here doing mornings with Melissa, it was small market radio, and I loved it. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm not in a major market anymore, I'm a loser. I never once felt like that. I felt like this is great. This is God's country up here. This place is beautiful. It's awesome. I loved every second of it. I truly, truly, truly did. So anyway, as time went on, the radio industry started dying out, and I started to think to myself, I better start thinking about making some other plans. I'm not sure what's going to happen with this. Our station got bought by Hubbard Broadcasting. And Hubbard Broadcasting is a great company. I have a lot of respect for them. Mr. Hubbard and I were almost friends for a while. I had lunch with him once. It was cool. And Dan Seaman. These were all great, wonderful people, broadcasters. Ginny Hubbard. They were great to work with and fun. But at the same time, they were running a business, and people that I worked with were getting laid off. They were, buying them out with severance packages. We'll give you 6 months severance. We are firing you, but we'll give you 6 months severance. They were good about it, but nonetheless, the writing was on the wall, and I was probably the highest or close to the highest paid guy in the station, among the top tier anyway. And my days are probably numbered as well. I mean, they're not adding to, they're cutting back. And so I started making plans, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to work on my voiceover career. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to treat it seriously and try to get good at it. I'm going to practice. I'm going to study. I'm going to take lessons. I flew out to Hollywood and made a demo. I read every book I could. I listened to the best people in the business. And then I started working on the side, doing it as I'm still working at the radio station. And the first year I made $6,000. It's like, wow, that's more money than I ever made on any side gig. Radio announcers always have side gigs. I became pretty successful, and then that 25 grand the following year, I doubled it again. And I mean, it just kept growing, and I got a little bit better. Friends helped me. In fact, Tom Bernard, the guy who I knew at KQRS, the Tom Bernard Show, anytime I would ask him about the voiceover business, he would gladly share information with him. And I decided at that point that if I ever made it, kind of big, or was successful at voice acting, if anybody ever asked me any questions about it, I would gladly share it with them. And the way I look at it is like, well, aren't you going to give away your secrets? You're going to tell people what to do, and now they're going to be competing with you. It's like, you know what? If somebody is motivated enough to become good at something, me withholding information from them is not going to stop them. They'll find a way to do it. So what the heck? And not only that, when you help somebody get better at something, you're helping yourself too. So anyway, that was my theory, and I've been doing it ever since. And every time somebody's asked me for help, I gladly do it, even if I don't know them. So a lot of radio announcers decided, especially when COVID hit, that I'm going to finally follow my dreams and be a voice actor. And it seems like it's a pretty easy business to do. I mean, what is there? Here's what I do. No, I don't do it. I do it with I do it with this. Now, the heart of the guitar is the fingerboard. Shown on the left in figure number 1 is a drawing of the guitar neck and fingerboard. The tuning keys lower or raise the pitch of the strings for tuning. Above the nut are 2 symbols, X and O. When O is above the nut on the string, this means to play the string open. When an X appears, this means either not to strum the string with your pick or deaden the sound with your finger or thumb of the left hand. That's almost the bulk of a lot of the work that I do right there. I've done some big commercials, but a lot of it's explainer videos. And so anyway, radio announcers, see that and they go, well, that's easy. I've been doing this for 50 years, 30 years. I can step right into that. It's a natural thing to do. And it actually isn't really that natural. And here's the difference. And here's the thing that if you're a radio announcer and you're thinking about doing it, there's a couple of things. One, it's not the same thing. It's a different skill entirely. It's like I saw Mitch Hedlund, was that his name? The comedian from Minneapolis, I believe. Fantastically funny guy. And he said that when he became famous as a comedian, they started asking him things like, wow, you're pretty good as a comedian. Do you act? And he said, that's sort of like asking a chef, God, you are a fantastic chef. Do you farm? It's a totally different skill. Being a voice actor is totally different than being a radio announcer. And it's sort of like, let's say you're a professional musician for 25 years. You played piano professionally. You played in bands all over the place, studio work. You did the whole thing. But you decided, for whatever reason, I'm switching to bass. Maybe the piano wasn't as in demand now and you can't get any gigs anymore and you still want to stay in the music business. And you understand music. You've played in bands. You know timing. You know this, that, and the other thing. So I'm switching to bass. So do you just pick up a bass guitar and go out and start playing professionally? No. You got to learn how to do it. You probably might have to take a few lessons. You might have to work on your technique. You would have to work on your technique. It's just not an automatic skill that comes along for the ride because you play. It's like, that's almost like saying, I can see, therefore I'm qualified to be a truck driver. Seeing is certainly one of the components. Oh, here's another one too. People tell me I have a really good voice. Well, what that's similar to is a girl, I'm going to just say girl, it's people have told her she's beautiful her whole life. Therefore, I should be an actress. And how many times the cliche is she a good actress? Well, as long as she doesn't say anything, she's fantastic. It's kind of the same thing. If somebody tells you you have a good voice, that's great. I mean, that's certainly part of it, although a good voice is not necessarily the requirement. Interesting voice, real people voices, quirky voices, good voices, yeah. Weird voices, yeah. I mean, it's what can you bring? Can you communicate? When you're a radio announcer, you're announcing, you're broadcasting to a variety of people. Hey, everybody, how you doing? And you're loud, you talk loud, and you're announcing. You're not communicating one-on-one, even though they teach you that when you go to broadcasting school. But as a voice actor, it's more like, hey, you know what? I was down at Stu's the other day, and they're working on cars down there. Man, that place is amazing, how good they are. First of all, they get you in on time. I don't have to sit around and wait. They're friendly, and they're really good at what they do, and their prices are fair. Okay, that's a genuine endorsement from Stu, my mechanic. That's how I feel about him, and hopefully you could see that, as opposed to Stu's Mechanical Shop fixes your car from head to toe. Whether it's tires, brakes, or exhaust systems, Stu's can handle it. That's one of the differences. The projection, there's a lot of things that you have to unlearn as a radio announcer. Practice makes perfect is kind of true, but not really. Practice makes permanent is true. What you practice becomes permanent. You have to unlearn a lot of things of being a radio announcer to become a successful voice actor. And you have to learn the business part of it. You're not just collecting checks anymore. It's like, oh, how much time off am I going to get? You can take as much as you want, but you're not going to make any money. It's running your own business now. It's a whole different deal that way too. So I would suggest this. If you're a radio announcer and you want to get in and be a voice actor, take 5 to 10 lessons from find a really good teacher. Don't just sign up for whatever you find on the internet. Study. Listen to their students. Study what voice actors do. Watch TV. You can hear the world's greatest voice artists right in your own living room. I can turn on my TV right now and hear the greatest voice actors in the world. Study them and listen to them. What's different? Record yourself. Practice reading out loud every day for an hour a day. Here's another thing too, is how fast can you get into the business? How soon can it be before you start raking in money? Well, you're going to have to put some time into it. There's just no getting around it. Now, if you want to get out there and be working within a year, could you do it? Probably. But you probably might want to put in like 10 hours a day practicing. It's like playing a musical instrument. You don't just buy a guitar and, all right, let's see, what band can I join? No, you got to take some lessons, or you got to sit down and study. You have to at least listen to good guitar players. I'm a guitar player. You got to put the work in. Now, you can put 10 hours a day in for a year, or you can put a half hour a day in for 20 years. and maybe you'll start getting good, maybe not. And that's the other thing too, is there's a risk you might not be good at it. You might have been a great radio announcer, but maybe you're not going to be good as a voice actor. But get a teacher, get a professional. When somebody tells you you have a nice voice, well, great, thank you. I appreciate it. That's not a professional opinion. Get a professional opinion. Take about 5 lessons and get a feel for it before you make any decision. Let's say you have to spend $300 for lessons or $500 for lessons or something like that. Do it. That might save you. There was a guy that asked me about getting into the voiceover business, and I sat down with him, a couple of coffees, and I go, well, I would recommend that you hook up with this teacher that I know, Craig. Have him listen to he'll give you the first lessons free, and he'll give you his honest opinion, and he'll give you an idea what it's like working as a voice actor. And then, see what you think about it. And he goes, yeah, that's a good idea. So he did all that. And then I ran into him, I don't know, a month or so after that. And I go, how's it going? And he also had a really good job, too. He was making really good money, so he was going to have to probably give that up. And he goes, well, it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And a lot of things in life are, things are harder usually than they seem. It seems, I can read, therefore I can do the job. There are many ways to hold a guitar, how hard is that? The hard part, and voice actors love to tell you how hard this business is. Well, the hard part of it is making money. You can do the work. You're not going to pull any muscles. You're not going to be sniffing any harmful fumes. You're not going to be cutting off your fingers. You're chopping up pieces of meat. You're not going to be pulling any muscles. You might get a static electricity shock from once in a while. And believe it or not, I've suffered a paper cut here and there. But generally speaking, it's pretty safe, pretty easy. That part of the job is actually easy. So taking a lesson from somebody like Craig, for instance, it's worth its weight in gold. And you're also going to have to sink some money into it. Promotion, it's running a business, equipment. And you can't just buy junk. You can't buy these guys, okay, this microphone here is $200 and this preamp that hooks up to your computer is $100 and that's all you need. It's like, yeah, that's all you need. But you got to remember, who are you competing with? Guys in Hollywood, guys with the absolute world's greatest recording equipment, microphones, studios. You got to study all that stuff. You got to learn about the equipment. You got to learn about studio construction. You got to learn about quality audio. You have to learn how to deliver audio to clients. You have to learn how to edit audio if you don't know that already. As a radio announcer, you have some of those skills built in already. But they become more critical now. Now your work is even more under the microscope. People are listening critically to you in top-of-the-line studios. It's like, I hear some noise in the background. What's that? Those are all things to consider and learn about. Anyway, I hope this helped you a little bit. If you're a radio announcer and you want to go for it, if you really feel the calling and you really want to do it, first of all, you have to go all in. You have to commit. I've seen so many people start and then a month later they're just back to working at Ross for less or something. It's sad, but true. I've seen it a lot. I've had a lot of people ask me for help and I've given them the help and they decide nah. Or they either decide nah or their actions decide for them. You got to stick to it. You got to go all in on it. You have to be committed. You have to study. You have to learn. And you have to treat it like you're competing with the best people in the world, because you are. Your competition is not, Eddie next door or, Jim down at the station. Your competition is, Morgan Freeman in Hollywood, in the world's greatest studio, directed by the greatest directors. Their voiceover pieces that they put out are treated like... I'll tell you one more story and then I'll go. And this was kind of an eye-opener to me. I got a job as a voice actor for Pioneer Seed Corn. Pioneer, the corn people or whatever. And it was in Minneapolis. I had to drive down from Bemidji and worked in their studio. And when I was down there, It was pretty amazing. So they had the studio rented. They had the engineer who was running the equipment. They had a director who was directing the session. They had a producer who was making sure everything was running well. And the copywriter was there to help interpret copy. And there must have been 10 voiceover actors there, each one laying down a couple different commercials. And if that wasn't enough, lunch was catered in. I mean, they spent the amount of money that was spent in that day on just producing voice commercials, just the voice part of it, was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And I couldn't believe it. It's like, wow, these guys are really serious about this stuff. You know, this isn't like plug your microphone into your computer, read a thing and zip it off and where's my check? You know, I mean, and the other voice actors that I met when I was hanging around here, this was early in my career, they're all really good. I mean, these guys are like, you listen to them and you go, holy smokes. These guys are seriously good. Actors, you know, they're actors in their free time, and this is their side hustle. But anyway, so I hope I helped you out. Write to me if you want to. Be glad to answer. You don't have to smash the like button. You don't have to share. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Do what you really follow your heart. Actually, please do follow your heart. I'm Mark Hicks, formerly known as Jack Hicks. Thank you for watching and have a great day.